From Southern Oregon. Steve's on. Okay, good.
I see the ball.
Okay, I'm gonna have a classic back and forth Gemara today. Nothing too complicated, just a back and forth for a while. Okay. So I think we did start. We were in the middle of something. So just very briefly, the beginning of the page told us that when you do the 7 sprinklings of the blood towards of the para aduma, of the red heifer towards the tent of meeting. So if you don't do it towards that direction, it's invalid. However, the first brisa says that if you do it either for the wrong reason or in a different direction, it's going to be invalid. And the other one, the next brisa said that if you do it for the wrong reason, it's invalid. But if you do it in the other direction, it's going to be valid. So we brought a brisa to contradict that, to say that. So the question is doing it towards not exactly towards the tent of meeting, is that invalid or valid? That the Gemara told us yesterday was actually 2 opinions, Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan. Now, it's going to be a long ways to get to our point, so I know we're a few lines later, but maybe let's just start from the beginning of the brisa, like 7 lines down. The Tanya, you have people that are waiting to bring their sacrifice to complete their purification process. If they go into the courtyard, so they are going to be, if they do it inadvertently, they have to bring a sacrifice. If they do it b'mezid, if they do it advertently, on purpose, so then they get karis. So now we're going to talk about primarily today 3 areas. There's the courtyard. Then, I guess really 4 areas. There's the courtyard. Then we're going to talk about entering into the holy area called the Heichal. Exactly. And then there's going to be in the Holy of Holies and next to the Ark of the Holy of Holies. That's going to be a big difference. So let's see. Now, okay, those are people lacking atonement. Ein tzarich lomar tful yom. For sure, the guy that's went to the mikveh and waiting for sunset. So for sure, if he goes in, he has more impurity. He'll have the same punishments. The shar kol atmeim, and the rest of the people who are impure are all going to follow suit. V'tehorim shenichnasu lifnim mimechitasan. So now, let's say you have a pure person, a regular Israelite who goes lifnim mimechitasan leheichal kulo ba'arbaim. He goes into the heichal, anywhere into the holy area. If you're not a Kohen, you're a regular Yisrael, 40 lashes. Now, mibayis liparochas el penei hakaporis. This is the key word. Keywords. Mibayis liparochas. The parochas is the cover, what we call the Aron Kodesh. When someone opens it up, that curtain is called a parochas. Same thing over here. We have it's a curtain. The kapores, kapores is a covering. So, mibayis laparochas el penei hakaporis means you've entered into the Holy of Holies towards the Aron Kodesh, the cover of the Aron Kodesh, meaning towards the Aron Kodesh. The question is, when you're in the Holy of Holies, so let's see. The first opinion sounds like anywhere in the Holy of Holies, b'misa, it's death penalty. Rabbi Yehuda says like this: Kol heichal kulo, umi buys the parochas ba'arbaim. Rabbi Yehuda says, not only is going into the heichal, the holy area, going to be 40 lashes, 40 minus 1, 39. Everyone agrees to that. The question is, in the Holy of Holies, just entering, is that lashes or is that death? I think death in the hands of heaven. So, Rabbi Yehuda says, "Mi ba'is the baruchas ba'arbaim." The el pinei hakapores, if you go towards the Aron Kodesh, then it's going to be death. So, the Rabbanan say entering the Holy of Holies is going to be death. Rabbi Yehuda says, no, that's only lashes. Coming to the Aron Kodesh is going to be death. So now we're going to go through B'mai, what do they argue about? And it's going to be 15 lines of how they interpret the verses back and forth. And at the end, we're going to get to the point that we want, that somehow it all ties back to sprinkling the paraduma directly towards the tent of meeting or not. Is that valid or not? It's going to somehow reflect these 2 opinions. That's the goal. Okay. So, so they actually argue about how to interpret the verse. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe daber al Aaron achicha ve'al yavo b'chol eis al hakodesh. Hashem tells Moshe to tell Aaron, his brother, do not come. You can't just come into the Kodesh. Mibayis the paroches el penei hakapores. So you can't go into the Kodesh, to the Holy of Holies, towards the Ark, the cover of the Ark, which is on the Aron, which is on the cover that covers the Ark. Velo yamus. If you don't do that, you won't die. Okay. So how do you interpret this verse? Rabban and Savri el Kodesh below Yavo. Going into the holy area is below Yavo. You shall not do. Every you shall not do minimally is going to be lashes. Mi bias the parochas the el pinei hakapores below Yamos. But going into the holy of holies or towards the Aron Kodesh is all going to be the same. That if you don't go there, you won't die. If you do go there, you will. Rabbi Yehuda says no. El hakodesh umibayis the paroches below Yavo. It's really where you put the comma. Where you put the comma. So if you there's three statements here. So if you put the comma after statement number 1, so 2 and 3 are the same. If you put the comma after statement number 2, so 1 and 2 are the same and 3 is different. So El hakodesh umibayis the paroches below Yavo, that you get a negative commandment. The el penei hakapores, when you get to the cover of the Aron Kodesh, you're not supposed to. That's below Yamos. That will be without death if you don't do it, and with death if you do it. Okay, so they argue about how to interpret the verse. So the rabbis are more strict, and Rabbi Yehuda is more lenient. According to the rabbis, there's only 2 things: the holy area and the holy of holies. That's it. According to Rabbi Yehuda, there's 3 things. There's the holy area, there's the holy of holies, and there is by the ark. So now, why don't the rabbis agree to Rabbi Yehuda? My time at the Rabbanon that there are only 2 areas that are not 3. So, if you're going to hold like Rabbi Yehuda, that there's only 3 distinct areas, and we divide up the Holy of Holies into 2. So then the Torah says follows: the Kodesh, the El Penei Hakapores, Velo Bayi Mibayis the Paroches. Just say in the Holy of Holies and then to the Aron Kodesh, and that's it. You don't need the Mibayis the Paroches. You don't need the part that talks about going from the curtain inwards. You don't need that. You would know the Anamina Heichal Mechayiv. Of course, if you're liable for the Heichal, for the being in the holy area, for sure you'll be liable for the Holy of Holies. Mibayis the Paroches Mibayi. So mibayis the paroches because the Rahmana Lamali. Why did the Torah put in this other section of going from one area past the curtain into the Holy of Holies? Shmamina b'misa, to teach you that also will get the death penalty. That is the way the Rabbanan learned. Now, what about Rabbi Yehuda, who's more what about Rabbi Yehuda, who is more lenient? He says that entrance to the Holy of Holies only lashes. Rabbi Yehuda, he kasar rachman el hakodesh v'lo kasar mi ba'is paroches. I only had el hakodesh to the holy area, and I didn't have mi ba'is paroches. Have Amina, what would I have thought? My kodesh. What is kodesh? When it said the holy area, what is the holy area? You would have thought the holy area is the Holy of Holies. Mi ba'is paroches. Aval heichal lav namilo, but I would not know that going to the holy area is liable at all. That's why it said that extra section to teach you that there's a difference. There's the Holy of Holies. V'Rabbanon. What would the rabbis do with that? It's not a good rebuttal. V'Rabbanon ha'hulo matzis amris. You can't say that because we know the Heichal is already called Kodesh. So you don't need the other part of the pasuk to tell me that the Heichal is referring to the less holy area. We already know it's referring to the less holy area. V'Rabbanon ha'hulo matzis amris. The Heichal kulo ikri Kodesh. Shinamar, as it says, the verse tells us in Shmos, coming up in, I think, 2 weeks, that there's a separation from the parochas being Kodesh and being Kodesh HaKadoshim. You see clearly there's holy and there's Holy of Holies. So when it says holy in another area, you wouldn't assume it's the Holy of Holies. You would assume it's holy, like it says over here. Okay, I have Rabbi Yehuda, who does say that you would have thought that the holy area is the Holy of Holies. What does he do with that? My timer. Very simple. If you go like the rabbis, and it's only going to be the holy and the Holy of Holies, So just say holy and holy of holies. Leave out the part about the Aron Kodesh. Just so below by El Panei HaKaporos. And what would I have said? If you go to the holy of holies, it would be with death. And El Panei HaKaporos, for sure, if you enter further in by the ark, you're for sure going to be death. So El Panei HaKaporos. Why do we add in that section? Shmamina El Panei HaKaporos b'misa. And mibayis the parochas. To tell you, there's a big difference. Only death is going to be when you get to the Aron Kodesh, but not when you just enter into the Holy of Holies. Okay, and what do the rabbis do? You're right. It's unnecessary. But it wrote it. Why is it coming to tell you? Why did it say to the face of the kapores, the cover to Aron Kodesh? What was that teaching you? A separate halacha lemuute derech meshufash, to exclude entering. I think meshufash from a different angle. No, from if you enter in from a different area, from behind, the only way to be liable is if you enter in from east to west. So if you enter from a different area, then you're not going to be liable, which is very interesting. Meaning you could have thought that as long as you get in, who cares how you get there? Answer is no. Details matter. Kedetana deber Eliezer ben Yaakov al Panei HaKaporos. Al Panei HaKaporos, Kedma. Al Panei HaKaporos, when it says the face of the cover, the face, in referring to things in the Torah, refers to the east. Kedem is the east. So Zeb Banaav, this is the principle, this is the rule. Kol makom shenemar Panei eino ella Panei kadem. Anytime it says the word face regarding the ark, or the cover of the ark, it's referring to the east, not the west, not the north, not the south. Yeah. Rabbi Yehuda, what does he do with that? Lemakra Panei, my El. So just say Panei. What's El? Shmamina El dafka. El teaches you it has to be towards it, specifically towards it, not from a different angle. So we know that already from the other word El. V'Rabbanan El lav dafka. According to the Rabbanan, El is lav dafka. Meaning, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it says El Panei HaKaporos. It says towards the Panei HaKaporos, only towards the cover of the ark. That's exact. El has to be, you have to go towards, be right now in a place where you're right by the cover of the ark. And the word El is precisely right there, right next to it. And then it's going to be a death penalty. But the Rabbanan say, no, that word El is lav dafka. It doesn't mean that precisely. It means generally in that area, but not right next to it. And this whole brayso was just for this point, that now Rabbi Yehuda, the Amar El Panei HaKaporos dafka, Rabbi Yehuda, who says that the word El, when you're next to, means you're right next to. So is dafka. So now back to our para aduma, back to our red heifer. It says that he's El Nochach. You have to do it, facing it towards it. So now is that El dafka or lav dafka? Is it precise or not precise? So El Nochach Nami Dafka, it has to be exactly towards it. That's that brayso that says if you sprinkle it anyway in a different direction, it's going to be invalid. It has to be exactly towards it. And the Rabbanan, just like over here, Midahasam Lav Dafka, Hanami Lav Dafka, just like here they say the word El is not exactly precise. It can be, and doesn't have to be right next to the cover of the Aron. It can be even anywhere in the Holy of Holies. So too, when it says El, it doesn't have to be exactly sprinkled exactly towards the tent of meeting, even a little bit of a different direction, you're still going to be liable. Okay. So that's how we answer those two braysos. Maskefla Yosef. Maskefla Rav Yosef. Rabbi Yehuda. Rav Yosef has a question to Rabbi Yehuda. Mida El dafka. Just like El is dafka. So al nami dafka. So now, just like El is dafka, so too, is the word al. The words El and the words al are very similar. So often the aleph and the ayin could be interchangeable for certain things. So when it says al Panei HaKaporos by Yom Kippur, it says al Panei HaKaporos. Is that also dafka or lav dafka. In terms of doing the sprinklings, has to be al penei kaporis, in the Holy of Holies towards the cover of the ark. Is that also going to be exact? And if you tell me it is exact, what's going to happen in the second base of Mikdash where they didn't have an ark? How did you do the Yom Kippur service? Oh, so Elo the Mikdash Sheni de lo havi aron kaporas. There was no ark and cover the ark. Hachanami de lo avid hazos. So to here there was no sprinkling. Can't be. So Amar Rabba Bar Ula Amar Kra v'chiper. It says in Vayikra v'chiper es Mikdash Hakodesh ves Ohel Moed. It says v'chiper es Mikdash Hakodesh. It says you should atone by the Mikdash HaKodesh. What it means is Makom HaMekudash LaKodesh. That's what it means. The place that is sanctified for holiness. That's where you should do the service. So even if you don't have an Aron Kodesh, but that's the place that is sanctified for that. So as long as it's the place where the ark would be, even if you don't do it towards or on the ark itself. Fine. So that's that. Now, Rava Amar, both of our previous brises that talk about sprinkling the paraduma, the whatever, exactly towards the tent of meeting or not, or a little bit off, they're both the Rabbanon. Hava Rabbanon, next page. It just depends. Hayi dekai b'mizrach hayi dekai mizrach u mariv. It depends. It depends where he is standing. Ha dekai mizrach u mariv. The adi. And Haidekai Tav Midara V'Adi. So if the Kohen is standing between from the east to the west, and behind him is the east, and in front of him is the west, so that he's doing it correctly. Because as long as you're doing it somewhere towards the west, the general west area, that's going to be kosher. The brisa that says it's invalid is that you're standing from north to south. So you're entering from the east and you're going towards the west. So the south is going to be the altar, and so if you're standing when you walk in facing the west, even if it's not exactly towards the entrance, that's fine as long as you're going in the general west direction. But if you're standing from north to south, then that's totally. If you're standing, that's like perpendicular. That's for sure not going to work. So really, both the brisos could be the Rabbanon, and they could differ in terms of you can answer up the contradiction and say it depends where the person is standing. Okay. Now we mentioned on the previous page at the top that Amar Mar, that the Yom Kippur or the offerings on the inner altar Vishabimitzora Shilo Lishman Psulos. If you do it for the wrong reasons, you have the wrong intentions in mind, it's invalid. If you do it in the wrong direction, it's going to be kosher. So, which we just explained, either is referring to either of Yehuda or the Rabbanon, or they're both the Rabbanon. The Hatanya, but the Brisa says, Bein Shelo Lishman, Bein Shelo Lishman Sheros. You do it for the wrong intentions or the wrong direction, it's invalid. Amar Rav Yosef Lo Kasha, Ha Rabbi Eliezer v'Ha Rabbanon. One is the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, and one is the opinion of the Rabbanon. Rabbi Eliezer the Makish Asham Lechatos. Rabbi Eliezer over there in Zvachim, page 2, no, page 10, just kidding. Yeah, it tells you that we know the Mishnah says if a chatas offering, a sin offering, is done for the wrong reason, it's invalid. Everyone agrees to that. That and the Korban Pesach offering. Rabbi Eliezer compares a chatas to an asham, to a guilt offering, and says that if the guilt offering is done with the wrong intention, it's also going to be invalid. So Rabbi Eliezer, who compares sin to guilt offering, makishnami log l'asham, also will compare the oil by the mitzvah to the asham. Rabbanon lo makshi. Rabbanon don't have that exposition, and therefore, if you do the asham, the by the mitzvah, if you do the mitzvah, you sprinkle the oil towards it with the wrong intention, it's not going to be invalid because they don't have that original comparison of achatas to an asham to therefore take it over to the mitzvah. So on that we say, hold on, we have a rule. You can't do a double hekesh. You can't do these comparisons twice in the world of sacrificial offerings. You, Rabbi Eliezer, how can you learn something out from a hekesh? And asham is learned out from a chatos. If you have the wrong intention, it's invalid. And then teach it towards the oil. You can't do that. Ela Marava, you're right. erase. Ha v'ha rabban. Both the rabbanon kan lahakshir, kan lehartzos. So the difference is they're both the rabbanon. The difference is though. It depends what you're doing. To allow the mitzora to come back and be kosher, if you have the wrong intention, it's going to be invalid. That which the Brisa says is going to be valid is to allow the leftover oil to be consumed, because the leftover oil of a mitzora is consumed. Same like our kmitza, part gets sprinkled, part gets eaten. So your sprinklings, even for the wrong intention, is enough to validate the remainder to be consumed, but it's not enough to validate the mitzora to go back into the congregation. Yeah. Okay. That's the answer. Fine. Now it's exciting because we're going to have the menorah coming up in 2 parshas, so we're going to get a little bit of a preview. So now we're continuing the theme of different parts of different mitzvos that if you don't have them all, they prevent the mitzvah from being valid, right? So until now we had parts of the mincha offering. That was one Mishnah. Then the next Mishnah went on to all the other sacrificial, the loaves and the different shelves and the different frankincense and the different, all the toda loaves, and we had the lulav, all the 4 species, right? So now we're continuing with that theme. Shiva kane menorah. The 7 branches of the menorah, ma'akvin zeh. If you don't have one, you only have 6, that's invalid. Shiva neiroseha ma'akvin zeh. On top of the branches of the menorah was the receptacle, what they call a ner. A ner we call a candle, right? Neiros Shabbos are the candles of Shabbos. When they refer to a ner, they refer to the receptacle that's containing the oil and the wick. So each one of the branches, you can imagine, had the receptacle, the little bowl, and you'd put oil and a wick inside. So those 7 neiroseha are me'akvin zeh. They're going to prevent one from another. Meaning, if you don't have one, you're not. It's not valid. Okay, that is the menorah. We'll get back to that in the Gemara. Continues the Mishnah. Shtei parshios shebimezuzah. We have 2 sections in our mezuzah, Shema and V'haya im Shamoa. Right, the first 2 paragraphs of the Shema are in the mezuzah. If you only have one, it's invalid mezuzah. Make sure you have both. Afilu kasav echad ma'akvin. Even if you have a word missing from the sections, that is even one letter missing is going to prevent it from happening. It's going to prevent it from being a valid mezuzah. Arba parshios shebitfilin. We have 4 parshios in tefillin. So Rashi lists you all 4. It's interesting that the order of the tefillin is a famous debate. Rashi and his grandson, the Rabbeinu Tam, that's what you'll see. Many people have 2 pairs of tefillin. We've probably seen many Chabad people have 2 pairs of tefillin, but it's not just Chabad. There are many, many people that have Hasidim in particular, but many non-Hasidim also. I believe the Chavetz Chaim, I think at the end of his life, he started putting on the 2nd pair of tefillin. So I think it was him. Someone asked him why. He said, what's going to happen? I'm going to get to heaven, and I'm going to meet the Rabbeinu Tam. And he's going to tell me, you sat and worked hard to figure out all my commentary in the Gemara. You didn't wear my tefillin. I think that's what they say. But so there's different orders. So that's a dispute, Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam. And it's interesting that Rashi, the order that he quotes here, is according to neither of. So the question is why, like where you got this specific order in our Mishnah from. So either way, but if you're missing one of those parshas, not good. No tefillin. So now afilu kasav echad, even one letter is going to be, if it's not there, it's going to be invalid. Ma'akvan. Okay. Our tzitzis, arba tzitzios, the 4 strings on the corner of our garments, ma'akvos zuazu. Having 3 is not going to go. Now, right, if you count the strings, you're going to count 8, not 4. How'd you get there? It's really 4 folded over to 8. But originally it's 4. So, arba tzitzios ma'akvos zuazu. She'arba asan mitzvah achas. right? You could ask a question at your Shabbos table. You want to know my 4 strings on the 4 corners. Is that 1 mitzvah or 4 mitzvahs? Right? The 4 species of the lulav. 1 mitzvah, 4 mitzvahs. My tefillin, my hand and my arm. 1 mitzvah or 2 mitzvahs. So this first opinion says it's actually 1 mitzvah. All 4 is 1 mitzvah. Rabbi Shmuel Omer, a novelty to us, is our boss on arba mitzvahs. It's actually a different mitzvah for each one. So according to Rabbi Shmuel, would you make 4 blessings? Or 1 will cover all 4? But according to him, it's 4 different mitzvahs. Interesting. Okay, now back to the menorah. So, how do I know? Once again, you see over and over again that if you didn't have a specific verse telling you that you have to have as the Torah described, the conclusion would be it's for a mitzvah, for the ideal. But if not, it's still going to work as the menorah. As you see, every detail here needs its own verse to tell you that it has to be complete. You can't just base off of other mitzvahs. My taima, it says havaya. Havaya is a being. That word being is one of the words that tells you it has to be this way. So there it says yihiyu. It has to be yihiyu kula miksha achas. Right? We're gonna see, but certain people that might have a hard time with supernatural things, maybe when you get to the menorah, you're done. Threw in a block and it came out of menorah. Right, so that's definitely a little supernatural to me. So I try to throw blocks and they don't come out menorahs. So I don't have a touch. I'm not King Midas. Yeah. So Taner Rabbana on menorah haisa basa min ha ashas min ha zahav asa min ha grutos psula. The menorah can come from the ashas or min ha zav. The zav is gold. Asha is a different kind of material. How do they refer to it? They refer to it as it has to be a complete piece.
Can't be made from scraps.
Right. It can't be made from scraps, from different pieces put together. It has to be made from one piece. Aso min agartus psula. If you do it from scraps, it's going to be broken. Scraps here means broken pieces of gold. Put together, that's not good. However, mishar minei matechos kshera. You want to use different metals, that's fine. You can use different metals. So, ma'ishna mina grutos psula. How do I know that if you use different parts of gold and put the different pieces together, it's going to be invalid? Dichsiv miksha. It's going to be from one block. Miksha vehavaya. It has to be that way. It has to be. It says teyaseh. Miksha teyaseh has to be this way.
You could take scraps, melt them all down, and make a block.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
What if you melt them down? That's an interesting question. Nami, the rest of the metals, Nami, Nami, Zahav vehavaya. It says gold, it has to be. However, Amar Kra te'aseh. It says, and then it says it again, you shall be l'rabo shar minei matechos, to include rest of the materials, rest of the metals. Maybe it should include scraps of gold, different pieces of gold. Emalorabos grutos, lo sakadaitach de amakshek siva havaya. It says by the word it has to be one piece, one block of gold. It says the word being, it has to be one block. So it says, what do you mean? Teyase nami amaksha. But it says the other word that includes metals is also written by the one block. So maybe it's one block, but then you include even scraps as opposed to one block, and you include other metals. How do you know which way to go? So ksiv maksha le'akev. It says it twice. It says in 25th chapter of Shmos Parshas Truma in the 36th and the 31st verse says that one block. It says it twice to teach you it has to be one block and it cannot come from pieces of gold. Says the Gemara, okay, zahav nami la'akev. It says gold twice too, and you just told me we include other metals. But when you repeat the thing twice, that means it has to be gold. So what are you gonna do with that? So haimai. So that's a kasha. So iyamers bishlama mina grutos psula and mishar minei matechos kshera hainu. So if you would have said that from pieces of gold together is invalid, but from different metals is good. So therefore, you would say the following: Hainu zahav zahav. You would say Hainu zahav zahav and makshe lidrasha. So you can learn very well that it says. Meaning, Yamers Minagrutos Kshera and Mishar. Sorry, Yamers Minagrutos Psula Mishar and Mateos Kshera Hainu Zav Zav. The reason why it's going to repeat gold, is to teach you that it has to be. Second. The reason why it would do it would be as follows. It would tell you zahav zahav. It had to be gold, but then it says miksha lidrasha to teach you the exposition that you would have. You can have other metals. Ela iamris minagrutos kshera. But you say from the scraps of gold is going to be good, and mishar minatekos psula, and from other pieces of metal is going to be invalid. So then zahav zahav maksha ma'idar ashtabe. What would be the exposition of the word maksha? So says the Gemara, what is this exposition? Ma'idrasha as follows: the Tanya, Hikar zahav tahar ye'asa osa as kol ha'kelim ha'ela. It says there in Parshas Truma, you should form a piece of gold, should be pure gold. Yasa osa as kol ha'kelim ha'ela. All of these vessels. So it should be like this. Ba'a zahav. So you have gold. Ba'a kikar. One second. Oh. Can I see for a second, Jules? Sorry. Can I see the Gemara? Okay. Sorry. Okay, so once again, so the Gemara is asking that if you would have like we just said, scraps of gold are invalid, but the rest of the metals are good, then you could read the Torah well, zahav zav and miksha. The repetition of those things are going to teach us are all going to be used for expositions. Now, if you tell me the other way that the scraps of gold are going to be good, but the rest of the metals are not going to be good, so then the Gemara is bothered by zahav zav miksha ma'idar. How would you expound all this? So now we're going to present all the expositions. So the Brisa just told us that you have to have a kikar. It's a measurement of gold, and says the Gemara that it's ba zahav and ba kikar. It has to be gold. It has to have a certain weight of a kikar. If it's eina ba zahav or eina ba kikar, but if it's not produced from gold, it doesn't have to have that weight. So meaning, if it's produced from gold, it has to be a kikar of weight. If it's not produced from gold, it does not have to be a kikar of weight. What time is it? 52. Okay. So once again, the Tanya. Kikar zahav tar yasa osas kol ha'kelim. So you have to have a weight of gold. So ba'azav ba'kikar. If you make it from gold, it has to be a kikar of weight. Eina ba'azav, eina ba'kikar. Then it's not going to be a weight of. Then it doesn't have to be a weight of gold. Giviyeha kaftoreha uperacheha. So you have a picture how they translate these. The givia is the Let's see. Yeah, all these pictures. So the gvia. So the goblet, knobs, and flowers. So right. The goblets were attached to the branches. The knobs were on the middle branch. There was 4 knobs, and then the goblets, the knobs, and the flowers, So the flowers were, at least in the picture, on the bottom knob. So all of those bazav, they have to come from gold. So bazav, ba gvim kaftorim uprachim. Eino bazav, so then eino ba gvim kaftorim uprachim. It's only if it's gold, then you have to have these. But if it's not gold, then you wouldn't have these. Only if it's gold. So maybe say the emanami ba'azav ba'akanim. And only if you have gold, you have branches. And eino ba'azav, eino ba'akanim. And if you don't have gold, then you don't have branches of the menorah. So we say hahu pamut mikri. This is called that's called like a small menorah. And therefore, second.
Does not have to be produced with goblets, knobs, or flowers.
One more. The Tom is not going to. Sorry. So, yeah, maybe you'll say that only if you have gold, then you have to have branches. But if not. So it says the Gemara, no, that's a pummel mikri. That's called the candlestick, not a menorah. If you don't have branches and just have a little thing, a little receptacle that's going to hold the oil on top of the menorah, on top of the base, that's just called the candlestick. That's not called a menorah. And I think we're going to continue from here tomorrow. Okay. Yeah, it's going to be a lot more, but I don't know.